Welcome to the Growth Series podcast, where we explore how AI is reshaping industries and accelerating innovation. I'm your host, Josh Jackson. At Red Letter AI, we help businesses scale their revenue, generate consistent and predictable leads while streamlining systems so it makes you feel like you have 100 sales reps when you only have 5. So if you're ready to take your business to the next level, and you're in the right place. If you'd like a free growth consultation, just drop the word growth in the comments below. Well, today, my guest is Janek Pfifer, and a sales and leadership professional with more than 20 years of experience building businesses, leading teams, and creating long-term customer relationships. For 14 years, he's run a extremely profitable freight company, managing over 200 operators and driving record-setting revenue in logistics. Now, Janek is channeling that expertise into solving one of the industry's biggest problems, fraud. His new system, Fraudulous, is designed to protect shippers and receivers from bad actors in the freight world, bringing accountability and trust back into the process. This isn't theory, it's a solution born from experience. So if you care about innovation, trust, and fixing broken systems, you'll want to listen to this conversation. Janek, thanks for joining us on the podcast.
First, man, how's your day going?
Very good. Very good. How's yours?
Just changing the world one Zoom call at a time.
Right? I can imagine. Well, tell us a little bit about your background, your journey, and what's led you to us here at the Red Letter Growth Podcast.
Sure, man. I mean, I don't know where to start. I'm a small town Western Kansas kid. Been around the Kansas City area for quite a while. I'm like a guy that sounds like he was born like 50 million years ago. Like I grew up, like my first job, I picked strawberries for 50 cents a quart. Like I'm not 95 years old, but like that was my job. I worked super hard through school. When I say school, like I started working full time when I was in high school. I would get out of class at like 3 o'clock, drive across town, work in a call center from 4 to 10 o'clock at night, selling like credit card upsells. So like sales became like a big deal for me. I never went to college. Didn't even nobody invited me, so I never went. And long story short, ended up in the sales world, and the first big boy job that I got was in freight. And so joined like it was really like an up and coming company called Freight Quote. This is 20 plus years ago. It's since been purchased by C.H. Robinson. And so long story short, I kind of exited the industry for fear of non-compete. And then I came back around and ended up starting kind of like a sub agency. Um, running freight brokerage for the last 14, 15 years. And so I kind of exited that recently. And now AI everywhere, you know what I mean? And you start to learn about technology and how it all works. And through retrospection, I look back and I'm like, man, freight is about as antiquated as, I mean, we're still doing like Oregon Trail type black and green screen. And I'm like, man, I can't imagine how much you could use technology to change this. And so that's kind of where Fraudulous came from.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about the background. Why is it important? Like,
Okay.
for instance, like myself, like I can't imagine that there's fraud that goes on with picking up shipments.
Oh, it's getting actually crazy. So like, I don't want my stats to be too old because I feel like they're updating like weekly, but I think it was 23 to 24, like freight fraud was up like 75% last quarter to the first quarter. Now I'm seeing like the average freight fraud incident was about $100,000. Now it's like escalated to a $30 billion industry. The average freight fraud incident is about $200,000. And there are myriad of people working to try to solve this problem. And I love the fact that, I always say that, freight is like, or I should say logistics is like a white collar job in a blue collar world. And I think that you still get that genuine desire just to actually help. You know what I mean? Because this is kind of ridiculous. The level of, I can talk to any brokerage and they'll tell you about either an attempt or an actual successful fraud event that took place. I've heard crazy stuff, whether guy sitting there walking his dog, one of the drivers walking his dog, and someone jumps in his truck, pulls a BOL, and they just hop in their own truck, pull up, hand over the BOL, and say, "Hey, I'm supposed to pick this up," and nobody questions anything, and they drive away with $1 million in freight or whatever it may be. And heck, my developer, his dad, is actually a truck driver, and he was just talking to one of his buddies recently, and they just had over $1 million in freight stolen. And so there's a lot of different ways that this takes place. but most of it has to do with identity fraud. Most of it has to do with people acting as if they're someone that they're not. And so, as people have really geared up to try to solve this problem, a lot of it is taking place on the front end. They are trying to validate that the driver or the carrier that they are partnering with for that shipment is actually a valid driver. Because there's other, I can give you so many different ways that this is done where people will find a truck driver that's been in business for 20 years and they go and buy his motor carrier number from him. So he has a good reputation. And then they present that motor carrier as if that's who they are, when in truth, they just started, frauding people like a week ago. And so like all of the efforts, there's a lot of people doing some really good work out there. Um, Highways doing some really good work. I used to use RMIS all the time. These are pre-vetting systems that are helping negate a lot of this fraud. The problem is they're finding ways to apply fraudulent activity way beyond. Most of the fraud happens after the shipment is booked. And that's where we come in.
Okay, so how does Fraudulous prevent this from happening? I mean, you can go as macro and micro as you'd like, because I really don't
Sure.
understand how this works. So I'm super fascinated.
Yeah. So in truth, most people, what's happening is, as I mentioned, is they're finding ways. A lot of people are hacking Gmail accounts. A lot of people are finding ways to either manufacture BOLs or just take the original BOL, like whatever it may be. Again, freight is so archaic that a lot of this stuff is happening like paper, like you're literally printing
Hmm.
off a physical BOL, and like truckers have printers in their truck. Like that's how
Yep.
this stuff is happening. But what our system is formulated to do is essentially create a secure network. So we're not necessarily vetting the drivers. All we're doing is we're making sure whoever you partnered with, like whoever you dispatched or approved to take your shipment, we're essentially making sure that when that driver shows up, he actually is working for that company. The way that we do that is by creating a network of drivers that is, or carriers, where everybody's built into the BOL when the BOL is created. So on a TMS, they're going to create the BOL, and ultimately they're going to select, just like they normally do. On every BOL, it shows who the receiver is, who the shipper is, or who the carrier is. Like all of that information's on there. Well, they're going to select that within our system, and it's going to essentially lock that BOL so no one else can enter it from that point on. It'll be digitally delivered to the driver. And then when the driver shows up, essentially there's going to be a transaction between devices that confirms that he actually is that person. It's like his phone, his app is the only thing that actually unlocks the BOL for the shipper to go, boom, this is the right guy. And I'm so excited because again, freight fraud is a $30 billion industry. A huge part of that issue is what's called double brokering. And I don't know if you're familiar with that, but like, let's say you're the shipper and I'm the
Hmm.
broker. Well, most brokers or most carriers are also brokers now. So let's say you're the shipper and you say, hey, I'm going to give this shipment to Bob's Trucking. Well, Bob's Trucking happens to be a broker as well. So you give me that shipment for $5,000, and then I turn around and I double broker it to another carrier, and I say, hey, you guys take it, and I'm going to trim another $500 off the top. So now I'm giving it to him for $4,000. And like you keep doing, and that guy can actually do it again. This actually happens. And so where the driver's getting screwed because he's getting a micro percentage of what he should be getting. But here's the problem. Now the responsibility is water falling down, and it gets really muddy as to whose fault it is if something goes right or if they give it to the wrong person. Our app, I can't block all freight fraud, right? I can't stop the Fast and Furious stuff. If someone jumps on your truck while it's moving and steals, I can't do that, right? But the point being is we in my we can completely stop double brokering, completely, and that is as big a problem. I shouldn't say as big, but is a gigantic issue in the industry as well.
Wow. So there's no other system out there that does anything like this, or does yours solve a particular problem that,
I don't
just
know.
hasn't been
I don't know
solved
if
yet?
anyone's trying to solve double brokering. Actually falls in the category of like counting cards at the casino. It's I don't even know. You can obviously put it into your contract in your BOL that it's against the law, but it's like you can't necessarily catch it all the time. Well, because we're creating that closed network, there's no way. Like, because only one carrier can show up and say, we're approved to take this load. The shipper gave the load to that carrier, or to that broker, whatever. And when that takes place, then there's no one else can be involved in that transaction. So no, there's nobody that I know of that's actually attacking this issue. at that level, at the pickup level. And I've actually had a lot of people digging into this, talking to some of the bigger people, the bigger brokerages, TQLs of the world, that type of stuff, and asking these questions. And like, yeah, there's a lot of people out there on the front end trying to solve it. But and really the barrier to entry here, in truth, like I'm very much aware, is essentially adoption. People have been doing this a certain way for a million years. And I think the benefit here is the pain is so high that people will be willing to make a small shift. And it really is a small shift. It's really like almost the same as digitalizing a BOL. That's how it started. The idea was just like, man, freight's so antiquated, we should digitalize the BOL. That was my first idea. And then as I started to describe it to one of my old freight partners, he was like, man, this is actually, if you do it this way, this could actually fix freight fraud. And that's where the idea kind of spurred. And yeah, so I'm like, I'm crazy excited. It's going to take some work to get it out in the market. But once we get to the point where everybody's like cool with doing it, we're not charging a crazy amount of money. I'm not trying to, it's very streamlined and we're talking about charging $2 to $3 a load or whatever it looks like. And if that's the case, then like, I mean, you would have to ship, 100,000 shipments with zero freight fraud. And right now, I don't want to misquote, but I think the stat is there's a freight fraud attempt on 1 out of every 10 loads. So
Wow,
yeah,
that high. That's
pretty crazy.
insane.
Yeah.
So just getting started, in a year from now, from this conversation, what does success look like for you?
That's actually interesting, man, because in truth, I believe that this either falls on its face or it grows crazy fast. To the point where this becomes, because again, I know that there's going to be the selling and the drive, because I'm not sitting here, I'm not charging for APIs. I'm not charging some sort of like, it's straight up an app that you pay per shipment. And so I'm trying to make the adoption as easy as possible because again, like I said, white collar business in a blue collar world, I just want it to be easy. Hey, just download this app, hop on, and there's going to be a little bit of friction there. But what happens is every shipper, has a broker that they work with for the most part. Well, they most of the time don't work with just one broker. So if we get this, if one broker uses it and the shipper's like, okay, I want to use it, they're going to go to their other broker and be like, hey, if you're going to work with us, you need to use this. And then it's going to spread. It's not, I mean, there's so many people involved that it spider webs out and ideally people accept it and move, it's again, once that initial, if it's the Venmos of the world, it's that once people start to use it, I remember Venmo when it first came out. I was like, I don't know. And now it's just so, hey, bro, Venmo me real quick. You know what I mean? And that's ultimately what it's probably going to have to become.
Yeah, I completely agree. What growth channels are you looking to work into mostly? Because you mentioned a couple of different people. You mentioned shippers, receivers, insurance. Like, what growth channels do you see working or moving into first?
I've had this discussion with a lot of my partners and just discussions on how we're going to attack it. And ultimately, I think my relationships and my network of relationships could be hugely beneficial because there's a lot of relationships in the higher ups. But ultimately, I mean, that's where we're going to start. But in reality, the benefit is the domino effect. If we truly attack the shipper at the bottom, because they're the ones, I mean, I should say that the extra benefit here is everyone feels the pain. So obviously the shipper, if he just lost $1 million shipment, that's a problem. But on top of that, his customers feel the pain. The shipper feels the pain. The broker is now probably losing that relationship with the shipper. He's feeling the pain. Even the driver that was originally supposed to be, the carrier that was supposed to be picking it up, they just lost a day's worth of work, if not more. So every single person wants to solve this problem. So really my thought is that the pain is high enough that it will be enough for them to shift their workflow just a little. And in truth, in my opinion, this is going to take place eventually anyway. It's going to be digital anyway. So like there's nothing complicated or difficult about what we do. It's going to be very streamlined. BOLs will go digital anyway. They already are in a lot of places. And so this is just going to really streamline the spot market as well. So ideally, if you find a shipper that says, hey, you cannot be a broker for me unless you use this, the broker's going to turn around to the carrier and say, you cannot drive for us unless you use this. And that's really what I'm looking for to happen.
Yeah. So in talking with people, what are the false realities that aren't real, but then people have in their mind, like, oh, I don't know if this will work because of X, but then they don't realize what you do.
I think that that's the biggest thing is everything. And it's so funny. I have a good friend of mine who's very deep in the freight industry. She's like, Johnny, you got to slow down, man. Like, I don't care. Even if you assume that everybody understands what you're saying. And I'm talking to people that have been in freight for 10 years and it's on the phone. So I get it, but they're still having a hard time like quantifying their mind because they're so used to the way that they do it. And so it's just like they're sitting there going, yeah, but what about I was on the phone with a couple of big brokerages and some guys are just hammering me with questions. And they're giving all these examples. You know what I mean? I got this avocado load that got hijacked and they put on these scan block. I'm like, okay, I'm not putting security guards on your truck. Like that's not what we're talking about here. But they really did hammer with me, like just different angles of how this can actually play out. And the more I talk about it, the more excited I get. And so ultimately, I think, and granted, business is business. I've experienced this so many times that it's like the deeper you get, the more you realize, hey, there's maybe more headway, there's more headwind, there's more mountains to overcome than you think. But in truth, I know exactly what it is, and it is adoption. It's just the idea of like, hey, you have to get the shipper, the broker, the driver, and the carrier, or I'm sorry, everybody involved in the party to agree to do this. So ideally, the play is like, let's find some shippers that have dedicated lanes. They have the same carrier doing it every single time. So we can prove it out where there is no question as what's going on. Everybody can see the workflow of it and play it out on lanes that like every week it's the same carrier, same driver, same shipper, same receiver. And we play it out on that several times where people see, okay, that's pretty simple. It's not difficult to do. And then we use that to kind of spread out into the spot market. And spot market's where you're choosing a different carrier, different load, different destination every single week.
Yeah, I understand. That's a great idea for adoption.
Yeah.
Getting one carrier that deals with one receiver to work on it
Yeah.
specifically, so you have the proof of concept that you can take to other people. Because
Yep.
pain, people losing $100,000 million shipments, that sounds like a big pain. That sounds
Yeah.
like a lot of pain,
All I gotta do is
right?
keep my eye out every single time the story shows up. Company name, give them a call. Company name, give them a call. And I know, again, there's so many people out there trying to fix this. I just believe getting that message across in the simplest form so they understand exactly what's possible here. If you're willing to commit to using this for your BOL system, and again, they're already building it in their TMS, the truckload management system. They build a BOL out in there, and it's going to API straight over to our app. It'll create the secure network, et cetera, et cetera. And that's it. Like it doesn't need more complicated than that.
So what are your biggest bottlenecks right now around pipeline or outreach or lead conversion?
We haven't got there yet, man. Like market, like I said, we were supposed to go to market last week, and I'm not trying to have it be perfect. We need to do market testing. I need to put a couple hundred loads through this thing to make sure, because I'm going to get feedback. People are like, man, it'd be great if it did this, and you got to pay attention to what's a benefit and what's actually needed, because there's so many things that this could do later on. It's just not my focus right now. You know what I mean? Like I want to take this to fix freight fraud now, and then if it wants to expand to be other things, that's great. But put it in front of some carriers, put it in front of some customers, hawk workflow. What are you comfortable with? What do you not like? Get those things tweaked and adjusted. And then after that, it's off to the races. Then it's just smile and dial. It's put in front of everybody, every single person you know, whatever we need to do to create this as the norm in the industry. So everybody's just like, if you're not using this, it's dumb. You know what I mean?
Wow. Sounds like you have an amazing opportunity. I can tell how passionate you are about talking about it.
Yeah.
And I think it's gonna be great. I mean, again, these are things that the average person just doesn't think about, but listening to you talk about it, I mean, it's real. 1 in 10 shipments are being hijacked. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Attempted, but yeah.
millions and millions of
Yeah,
dollars.
it's actually pretty crazy. And I think it's all fun and games until it's just like insurance, right? Insurance, you don't need it until you need it. And I think that's the reality here. It's probably a little bit more prevalent than that for sure. But in truth, once you actually are a customer and you don't get what you're supposed to get, and you're like, well, why not? Well, it got hijacked. You know what I mean? And I'm telling you, the more technology that comes out, the more AI that comes out, that's where I mean, that's what's kind of crazy about this. I think a lot of times people think of truckers and they see the flannel shirt and the trucker hat or what, and that's how they imagine like, how is fraud involved with that? These guys are straight up using technology, hacking, email accounts and like doing all these different types of things to make it's mostly digital crime that's taking place to make this happen. And so like, if you want to beat AI, you have to fight it with AI. And that's actually kind of how I got to this point. When I first came up with this idea, it was well over 2 years ago, and I brought the idea to multiple developers and all this different type of stuff. And they wanted six figures in a year to put it together. And I honestly pretty much shelved it. I didn't know how I could make that happen. And I even had people advising me, like, do not put that much money into something that you don't even have market test for. And they said, you need to put together an MVP. And I didn't. I couldn't. People were wanting to charge me six figures just for the MVP. And long story short, I ran into Lovable, if you're familiar, and I literally built the MVP. What they said would cost six figures. What they said would cost like a year of time. I put it together in literally probably, I don't know, I'll say it like, because it's taken a lot more since then, but like a visual, workable, pretty workable app, like pretty clunky, but workable in like 3 days. And since then, I've had to hire a developer to iron out the kinks. But to tell you the truth, man, it is amazing what AI can do today.
I agree 100%. So, in wrapping up, I love to just transition a little bit and I love to ask you, what is the best piece of business advice you've ever received?
The best piece. I mean, man, I could talk business advice all day, but in truth, like it's about intentionality. It's about focusing on the fact that like it's easy to put in work every single day, especially if you understand the work, if you have the skill set. When it comes to business, like you wake up every day and if you're a grinder, you go work, 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 work. And I always said that success is on the other side of basically laziness and fear. Like as long as you're not those two things, you're going to be successful. And I've never considered myself lazy, but I will tell you this, like I found out that I was lazy in my intentionality. I was willing to do the work every day, but it's like those people that are willing to work hard but not think. And that was pretty much me. Like I was willing to work my butt off but not think on how I could get better about what I was doing. And then on the other side of thing, especially on a journey like this, it's like having fear. What if this falls on its face? I think I just read a book and it's honestly on trading, like stock trading, but it's called Trading in the Zone. And he talks about like you have to know that you're going to fail. It's part of it. And you have to be okay with that. And
Yes.
if you start the journey knowing that that's a possibility and being okay with that result, then you can go a heck of a lot faster versus constantly having timidity towards making any sort of moves, picking up that phone and calling or whatever. You have those hesitations. It's like, hey, I already know that failure is an option here. And it's definitely a possibility, but it's a guarantee if I don't pick up this phone. And that's kind of like the game changing mentality that people need to bring on if they want to be able to move beyond the norm.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I'm glad you said that because one of my biggest complaints about schooling these days and schooling when we were in school was going to school. Failure was failure. Like it was not accepted, right?
Sure.
You're judged on your grades and getting things wrong or right and regurgitation. Where in reality, in the real world, it's the opposite. Success doesn't start until you start failing. Like it's part
100%.
of the success equation. Garrett White always says, if you know who that is, he says, when you first start doing something, you're going to suck really bad at it.
Yeah.
And you're going to do it again and you're still going to suck, but you're going to do it enough times that you may not suck anymore.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like people actually, for some reason, feel differently. They're brand new. It's I'm like, oh, I suck at this. I'm like, did you expect something different? Like, why, my son is a lot like that where he expects to be good at everything instantly. And it's like, that's just not the case. Practice, practice, practice. There's another book called Mindset. It helped me a lot in parenting where it's just like, stop telling your kids they're awesome 24/7. Because when they find out that they're not, they're going to be pissed. Really
Yeah.
frustrated. Like, explain to them that they are awesome because they practice. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they're smart because they study. If they think that they were born that way, then they're probably going to have a lot harder journey. And so I
Yeah.
encourage that to anybody that I meet that it's like, just know you're going to suck. It's like the knowledge of the negative is what actually breeds the positive.
Yeah. And I'll give you a real life example of making millions of dollars on a failure equation. Baseball players, right? Baseball players, when you bat 200, 300,
Yeah.
you fail 70, 80% of the time and you get paid millions of dollars to do that. So it's always remind, I'm not a baseball player, never good at baseball, but I was trying to remind myself of that. But that leads me into my last question is, what would you tell your younger self, your teenage self? You're just starting out. What's your advice to them?
I don't want to say like, don't be so narrow minded. I started very early on. I'm actually like a fly by the seat of my pants type person, but like over time, I've obviously become more disciplined. I shouldn't say obviously, I've become more disciplined. But at the end of the day, like I was very much so narrow minded in the way that I saw things. And I started so late. I started making dumb decisions like way early and I started making smart decisions so late. And if I just would have found like guidance and true guidance that wasn't like pigeonholed. It's just like, I'll give you an example. I actually just posted this on LinkedIn today. My son was gifted a truck by his grandpa, 1996 GMC Sierra, less than 100,000 miles. Like, looks beautiful, right? Him and I had to flip out a starter on it here recently. The point being is he's like, hey, dad, like my cousin just bought a new car and like this has had some problems. I feel like the longer I wait to sell it, like the less value it'll have. And I'm sitting there like, listen to me. I know that your cousin just bought a car. And I know you're probably thinking it'd be cool to have a cooler car or whatever it may be. My point being is like, you need to shift the mindset of it's cool to have a cool car to a mindset of it's cool to have $50,000 in the bank. It's just a different way of looking at life. And if you can make that cool to you, that's all that matters. If you can make that cool to you, then and your mindset's all that matters. It can change everything. And I truly believe that my son will be done working by the time he's 25. When I
Hmm.
say done working, like full control, full, like he doesn't have to work a job or whatever because he's created enough income passively through business or whatever that he won't have to simply because we sowed that early. If I was
Hmm.
younger, like if I had started, I wouldn't change anything. I shouldn't say that, but like I just like learned from my experiences saying, man, start early, time compounding, all of that interest compounding makes a huge difference. So if you start early, I'm not trying to steal his childhood, but it's like, man, you can have an incredible adult life if you don't try to take something that's not yours. Buying
Hmm.
on credit and those types of things, it's just buying something that you haven't actually earned yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so
Right.
I just advise people get some guidance early, be conservative, work your ace off early, and on the long term, it's a lot more enjoyable.
Right. Let the compound effect work for you and not pay credit card companies and work against you.
Yeah, right.
Right.
They're
Well,
rich
John,
enough.
it's been a pleasure chatting with you.
For sure,
Where
man.
can people find out more about Fraudulous or get in touch with you if they want to find out more?
Well, when it comes to Fraudulous, fraudulous.com, is the website. Like I said, it's not even on the market yet, but will be maybe by the time that this comes out. You can also learn more, from me at janekpfeifer.com. Should have a book release in here by the end of the year, hopefully, but we have a newsletter that goes out every week about growth, leadership, and just really personal development. So they want to connect. That's where you can find me.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it, brother. It was really good chatting. Hopefully we get to chat again.
Sounds good.
Thanks, man.
Cool.
Interesting.
What?
No, it's good. I mean, again, like I need to like let go of the whole discussion we just had about like fear and the concept of like, there's nothing proprietary about what I do. You know what I mean? And in truth, there's nothing I can do to stop someone else from just like sucking it up. But there's only one way to get it out there too. It doesn't matter. Like the first time
Speed.
yeah, exactly. The moment we land the first big brokerage and it really starts getting out there, like you said, I have to go as fast as I possibly can to the point where someone's like, instead of trying to recreate what he's done, it'd be easier just to buy it.
Of course.
And I have to get it to that stage because if they see it before I get into that stage, then it's like we could just recreate that. And it might take them some time, but like I said, I got to stop having fear and just in regards to that and just be like, man, let the chips fall where they may. We just got to work our ace off fast.
I mean, there's something to be said for first to market. I mean, there's nothing proprietary on what Amazon does. They're just so good at it. Like
Yeah.
why there's other people that, trying to copy it. There's probably knockoffs out there, but there will only ever be one Amazon.
Yeah. I hear you. Yeah. And like I said, it's honestly my first time in this business model. My freight company was just like direct sales. You know what I mean? It was like a franchise. I didn't have to learn all that stuff. You know what I mean? It was already just plug and play, do the work. This is the first time that I've really taken off and done something completely from scratch and just figuring it out as I go. And just, every person that I ask, I'm like, I'm the guy asking a million questions. And they're just
Yeah.
like, why are you asking so many questions? Because I want to know, you know what I mean? Like, I want to make sure that like my mindset's where it needs to be able to grow this thing as fast as I need to. You know what I mean? And so it's actually funny.
When
Sorry, go ahead.
when if you have, I don't know if you know this, but do you have a launch date? Do you have a date like, hey, this is when I want to push the button and go?
So we have a roadmap that I put together that's kind of like in concert with my trajectory for my developer. And like I said, we're about a week behind that. Well, almost 2 weeks now, just because like the more we did workflows, the more we realized like, crap, like this has to, like this, for this to be scalable, it has to be, I just want to make it so like when I demo it, like I'm not going to get some error screen. You know what I mean? And so like last night we hit that where it's like, dude, even though we've got these little tweaks that need to take place, like we should be demoable. And so I've already got brokers lined up to do what I described. You know what I mean? So like I've already got that in place. So ideally, I'd like to think I could run 100, 200 loads through that thing in a week. So once I get to the far side of that, my guess is like the idea is to have um 100 to 200 loads ran in the next, like once we start that, whenever that is. Ideally it's like it's probably going to be next week, but like next week we run 100 to 200 loads, then we probably got another week of tweaking and adjusting to all the suggestions that people made and then testing one more time. But within the next month I'd like to think that we can start selling, but I have to test all that stuff to make sure that like it works, you know what I mean?
Okay. And then, so adoption sounds like the number one first domino you got to push over, right?
Yeah.
Then it sounds like the second one is going to be just growth acceleration. So you can be the first out there, first to market, first in
Yeah.
front of everybody
Yeah.
on this. One of the reasons why I do this podcast is I get to meet really amazing people like yourself and have interesting
Appreciate that.
conversations.
Yeah.
And then B, it's like, this is like a chance for me to be like, man, like, would I like to work with this person or this company? And I love your energy. I love everything you're doing. And I know you're not at that point at the moment for like accelerated growth, but I'd love to be a part of it. At least, share with what we can do and
Yeah.
give some ideas on what we could do to help you like go like supersonic.
Sure, man. No, absolutely. Like I said, I mean, I'm always looking for right people, conversations, it's all about it's definitely about right people. Like I said, it's so funny. My first person that I really was able to put this in front of, I shouldn't say that. I put it in front of like probably half a dozen people that were not the right people trying to find a developer. And I ended up getting connected with this guy that exited it like for $150 million when he was 28. And I think I probably told you about this guy. And he honestly like wanted me to like, for all intents and purposes, and I don't want to like downtrod this because in truth, it's kind of the structure of his business. He has 300 developers overseas, and like that's his business model. And they basically take people's ideas and build it out and give like, I guess basically the concept is they want full control of the company and they let you keep 10%, but they do everything.
Hmm.
Well, that's like when we first had the conversation, it was referred by a friend. So that's not, I didn't have any knowledge of like that was his model. And it's really not his model. His main model is just like, you need a developer. I'll basically upsell you an international developer is basically the gist of it. But he also has this private venture capital suite, but it's not venture capital, it's venture tech, where basically they provide the technology to like the developers to scale something. And they've never done anything out of their own ideas. So they're like, we want to bring in other people's ideas, but then like he literally was basically wanting me to give him the company, like 90% of the company for him to build it out. And I'm like, what? Well, he just ended up like, for all intents and purposes, like my friend, I was like, can you just dig in to see if this guy's even interested? And when I got that idea, I was like, okay, probably not my guy. Out of nowhere, this is like 2 months later, a month later, he just texts me. He's like, hey, how's your company going? There's always going to be people, man. Like everybody, especially once you actually start getting traction, right? And
Hmm.
so, like I said, always looking for the right people. I've got another guy that I honestly thought I was going to bring on. It's a little risky because he's a good friend of mine, but he's super well networked in the freight industry. But honestly, like I don't feel the excitement or drive on his end as much. And, so I'm just like, I don't know. I'm still being selective. I want to stay thin. I was just talking to the owner of the company that I work for is like super, super AI, right? He said successful companies are trying to get 200K out of each employee that they work with. So he's giving the speech to his whole company. And I don't know, there's 100 of us. And he's like, ideally, we're trying to get at least 200K production and we're around like 220. So we're doing really good. But he's like conveying this. He says, but here's what I want you guys to understand. Like we're actually, even though we're like an AI, we sell AI. He's like, there are companies, the ones we're competing with are doing $5 million a year. He's like, we may be doing 25 million. They're doing 5 million with 5 employees. He said, that's the future. The future is AI companies will be able to do X the effort because they're using AI for everything they do. And
Yes,
so,
you'll see $1 billion companies that have 10 people.
exactly.
Right now, I know of a company that they have 8 people, and they do what do they do? Two, three, 350 million right now a year. I mean,
So
right,
I want to be in that range. My objective is to
right.
stay tight. You know what I mean? Like, again, like, so the model's interesting, man. Like most other stuff out there, especially with APIs and stuff, because you asked me the next hurdle. APIs is the next hurdle. I don't think it's going to be super difficult because the information that we're pulling and pushing is super simple. And based off what I've been told, the open API that I built, like someone should be able to just literally download the app, follow the instructions, and sync. And there's only like so many TMSs out there anyway. You know what I mean? There's only like probably like 20 major ones, if that. And so like once we get that ironed out, so that people can like pre-establish APIs, that'll be even cleaner. So that's kind of like really the next step. But I want to make it, I'm not selling, it's like, oh, for us to set you up, it's 20 grand. I'm not selling a software solution where it's like, oh, it's 150 grand a year. It's literally download the app and book your shipments. I'm trying to keep it that I wanted to stay away from the API, but I don't think I can do that. And so like, that's what I'm trying to do. And in my mind, that keeps this like hella light. It's like smile and dial, get it in front of, demo it for like 50 million people. I'm not trying to charge anything. Just use the damn app. Now, like there's some risk there. There's no contract commitment. The ARR probably is a little fuzzier, you know what I mean, for a sell because people are like, there's no contracts in place, but it's just like, that's the point. You go back and you look at a Facebook, you know what I mean? It's just like, keep it free, keep it the fun party, Venmo, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not trying to, I don't think I'm going to go the free route, but it's freaking $2, $3 a shipment. You know what I mean? So it's nothing. And if I can just keep it that simple and just get exposure and get people to start using it, then I can keep myself super light. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Like we'll run into that bridge when we get there, but I just don't, I want it to stay simple, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get it where it needs to go.
Yeah. Well, I think, like I said, I think you have a great idea. I love your energy. I love working with you. I love chatting with you. And I think you have something really special, and it's gonna change a lot. My dad's a trucker.
Yeah.
He drove truck long before I was ever born,
Yeah.
and he's 80, and he just gave up his CDL, and
Your
he was
dad is
driving.
80. Wow.
Yeah, I'm 51, so, or I'm 50.
Are you really? Holy
So
crap.
yeah. Yeah, I know. I have a lot more experience than I look. People always say, "Oh, you look like you're in your 30s." I'm like, well, I'll take it. Maybe
Yeah, no, I
40s.
mean, I'm 42 and prior to me losing my hair, I used to go, man, are you in your 20s? Not so much. That's cool, man. I mean, yeah, when I spent like probably several years focused on heavy haul, and I had this guy. I mean, all heavy hauls, those gigantic chains, those chains weigh freaking hundreds of pounds. This dude was 83 years old running a 10 axle trailer, 11 axle trailer around like those gigantic overdimensional loads. It's like,
If you talk
dude,
to my dad, and you see what he does every day, you'd never guess he's 80 in his 80s
so
ever.
is he retired now?
Well, he actually retired when I turned 21 or 25 or something like that. But he still drove truck, but he just did it part time when he wanted to. You know, he drove grocery truck, so he didn't do long haul across the
Oh,
country.
gotcha. Yeah, yeah,
He
yeah.
was just gone for the day, grocery truck driver. But it was perfect for his, what he wanted to do and be
Yeah,
home every night. And,
yeah.
like, the guy always came to every sporting event of mine. He's always been there for me.
That's cool.
Nothing bad you could ever say about him.
Yeah,
Um, but see, he just started doing part-time truck driving, like for a gas company. His prior company for grocery truck, they call him if they needed him. He'd be like, "Oh, I want to work," or "I don't want to work." Like, he had that much seniority and
yeah.
such a great record.
That's cool. Yeah, like I said, I mean, there's so many stories out there that I feel like I have to talk, I have to demo, and just get it in front of every freaking person I can. And I've been saying that for like a month, bro. Like, I'm just so ready to sell. I just want to sell. And I
Yeah.
just haven't had that chance yet. And so I think I'm super jacked after last night and we're super close, but still work to be done. And yeah, man, let's stay in contact. I'll keep you updated on what things are doing, and hopefully I'll see some of your
Yeah.
podcasts come out, and I'll try to let you know what I want to do with this. Like I said, I want to be able to support you and allow you to use it. I just need to dig into what that looks like. So
Yeah, well, when you're ready, not right now. I don't want to schedule it, but maybe in a couple weeks, we'll do more of what I call a discovery call. I'll ask you more like detailed questions. Obviously, not me posting anywhere, but ask you more detailed questions on the business, your goals, um, what your biggest bottlenecks are, what your biggest problems are. That way, I know what your goals are, and I can customize a solution for you.
cool, cool. Sounds like a plan, my man. Well, it's good
Cool.
chatting.
You too.
Have a great
Have a
week.
good day.
Thanks, buddy. You bet.
Okay. Bye.